Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Rose.
And I'm Jessica Bun Bun.
Welcome to our reaction and review of Nine Bodies in a Mexican Morgue, Episode 4. We have made it 2/3 through the season, and I think what's made this really, really funny is that I believe I have had, at this point, 3 or 4 different lead suspects. I've kind of thought one person after each episode is the killer, and it's changed every single time, and guess what? It's changed again, everybody. I am now confident in yet another person being the quote-unquote big bad.
Okay, so I have on my detective cap
Okay.
because I feel like I know 2 things now.
Okay.
I know who the person is that is holding the knife at the end of the episode walking up to Zach.
Okay.
I also feel like I know who the person is who is going to be the 10th person who actually survives. And that person is going to be Zach. And not because he's a DEA agent, but because he is the only person now that we have gotten backstory on away from the plane. We now know who his wife is, his kid is, what's going on, them trying to find him, all of that. He's the only person that has that backstory. So he's the only person who is going to survive.
I think there's a lot of smoke around that idea. I mean, just one of the meta theories that we often discuss here is like, okay, are you a known name? And Zach, the actor who plays Zach, is one of the only 2 people I was actually familiar with going into Nine Bodies, with Eric McCormack being the other one. So it's like, okay, it makes a good bit of sense that he would be the lone survivor, just like it makes a good bit of sense, that Kevin is the killer. And this is where we've danced around this a little bit over the past few episodes, but I am now feeling confident, which means I am probably wrong, but I am feeling confident now that this is Kevin who is the person doing all of it.
Listen, that whole toenail scene, that feels like if you're just a regular guy doctor, that's not something that you're actually doing. I understand that people want to go home, but I don't feel that people are going to do that unless you're killing people.
Yeah, that's the thing. And even him trying to couch it and it's like, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't. You still did it. It's just one of those deals where it's like, it doesn't matter what you say before you do it.
Listen, if I was out there, I want to go home just like the next person. I love my bed. I just want to be in my home. I don't want to be in the jungle. It's hot. It's miserable. I like to eat. I don't want to be hungry out there. Okay. So I'm willing to do a lot to go back. I'm even willing to climb that mountain, and I am a non-athlete. I do not hike. I do not like exercise in any way, shape, or form, and I would climb that mountain up and down all day long. But I am not going to pull off somebody's toenails to go home. I don't really care how much I love my bed. I'm not doing that to somebody. Even if somebody's trying to kill all of us, I'm still not doing that. It's too much.
I'm just not touching anyone's toenails ever. I'm just throwing that out there right now. It's just like, this is, especially out there. You're in the jungle. This is that. Okay, well,
Kevin, you sus.
Okay, we're going to get into so much of all of this, reasons to be sus towards Kevin and a whole lot more. But be sure to hit that subscribe button because we're going to be here through the remainder of Nine Bodies. We're also in the midst, though, of so many other great shows. Yellow Jackets is entering its home stretch. We've got The White Lotus Season 3, which has been tremendous fun. Severance just wrapped up, and not that far down the road now, we have The Last of Us. We have The Handmaid's Tale. We have just so much good content to look forward to.
Also, Black Mirror, if you're looking for some fun creepiness. We love that show here. And we're going to be covering that too. Also, follow us over on our Patreon. We'll have a link for you below. Right now, we're covering over there The Pit, which is airing on Max. Bosch Legacy, it's its final season. We're going to be covering that over there. And Andor. So if you're into Star Wars, we're going to be covering that over on our Patreon. And it is the only place that you'll be able to get those reviews. So thank you so much to everyone who is supporting us there.
Thank you, guys. We really, really appreciate that.
Okay, who is the person holding the knife at the end of the episode? It is Sonia. And I don't think she's there to kill him. I think she's actually there to see if she can get some answers. The reason that it's Sonia, and I went back and looked and scouted everything out because that person is wearing a watch. So I was like, okay, Dan is not wearing a watch. Lisa is dead. Amy is not wearing a watch. There are only 2 people that are wearing a watch, and it is Kevin, but his watch is smaller and brown. and Sonia, who is wearing a bigger black watch. And that is what you see with the person that is holding the knife. It is her.
I am just going to take your word for it here because I did not pick up on those clues. The only clue I was really thinking of at the end of the episode was I was like, okay, Kevin was just there. So it's probably not Kevin in this instance. I was thinking, okay, maybe it's just Dan because Dan seems like he's crazy reckless and he would go there and try to do something very, very violent. And maybe he takes him out, but he's not actually the same killer that we've been seeing all season. Maybe he's just acting because of everything else and he thinks that this is the killer. And if he thinks this is the killer, he is all of a sudden the hero. But, what you're saying about the watch, okay, yeah, it would make sense if it's Sonya. And also, they do have at least enough of a history out there that maybe that quote unquote bond will carry them to some extent.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, they did sort of have this, moment where Sonya's like, it's you. I know it's you. You're hiding stuff. He's like, check my wallet. It'll show you I'm DEA. No, there's no ID in this wallet. He's like, oh my God. She's like, I found your secret stash. You've taken the bullets. You've got other stuff in there. You've got this gun in there. You also have this, radio in here. So, like, what's going on? He's like, somebody's framing me. And
Yeah.
it felt very much like, yeah, somebody who knows that you had that stash has
Yeah.
put that in there. And there's only a few people that know that. It's Lisa, who's dead,
Yeah.
and Sonya.
I think Sonya's clearly got an interesting backstory that's been established within this episode. She's somebody who has gone through a lot. But because we have learned all that backstory that we have, I'm just very inclined to think, okay, she's not the killer at this point, but she's somebody who studies a lot of environments, who knows a lot of things, who can accumulate information. The fact that she knew about those mushrooms knows that she knows how to survive in this environment perhaps a little bit better than everyone else. I think she probably is, ironic because she's there with the DEA agent, but I think she's probably there more qualified to be a detective than almost anybody.
I still think it's Sonya. And the reason why is something that was said a few episodes ago that's really still sticking with me, which is she suggested that everybody move from the plane because I think the whole idea is to get the drugs out of the plane and they're not able to get to it because there are people there. And if everyone had moved, like she said, then the chances of everybody getting killed probably not happening anymore. Nobody seems to have any real information on what's going on. They just need to get to the drugs. And I think that it is as simple as that. She knew where that stash was, so she could put that phone in there to be like, hey, look over here. It's this guy. To try to, like, if she's got to kill people, then that's what's got to happen to be able to get these drugs moved through. It has now come out that she was going to get married, that her man, partied too much. They partied too much. It seems like they weren't dealers, but they definitely were people kind of pushing and helping people get drugs and whatever's going on. So is it possible that after that death that she's like, oh, I just wanted to lose myself, and the thing I know how to do, I know how to supply parties, so that she kind of got mixed up in this?
I think that part of it is the biggest clue I would say that is pro Sonya from this episode, is that I think you can connect the dots with her and this, empire, I guess, in a way that's easier than everyone else. But here is why I am now on Kevin and why I have jumped ship from Sonya after just 1 week. But okay, number one, yeah, there is the Eric McCormack being a big star factor, and I think that matters to a certain extent. But beyond all of that, a lot of it just comes down to, at this point, the nature of him hiding in plain sight. It seems like he is there for almost every single decision that has come up. It is also, he has that cover of being a doctor. Also, he sells himself really, really well to Zach when it comes to him not wanting to do this, to him not being capable of doing this. But it's also somebody where he is because of his past as a doctor, he knows a lot when it comes to how to use certain tools and how to be very, very adaptable. And that can be useful when it comes to taking people out. That can also be useful when it comes to quote unquote saving people. Going all the way back to Octavio, he may have been trying to save somebody who he knew could not be saved, and that was a perfect cover for him then. But beyond all of that, when you sort of just look at, okay, the supply that's on the plane, what he has been doing sort of in medical sales after being a doctor. Not to get too like crazy down a rabbit hole here, but I've done a lot of research on medical sales, and I've also watched some John Oliver segments about it. There is a lot of shadiness that can exist in this world where at times you're selling things that you don't necessarily believe are 100% effective. And because of his own history with the medical field, with potentially selling certain aspects of drugs, it's not that big of a leap to me that he could then get involved in this situation, or he could have gotten himself involved in some really bad places where he owes a lot of money to people. This may be his only way out. And I was starting to think, okay, maybe he really is reluctant to do this to Zach. Maybe he really is reluctant to do this to all of these people, but he may just not have that much of a choice.
I'm convinced now. I think that your point about the fact that he probably doesn't have the money that he needs. He has kind of said that getting sued just, ruined him. He's unable to practice anymore. He's unable to earn this kind of money to be able to pay off this suit, that he just might be in a desperate situation where he needs to do this to sell medical supplies, which is just the cover so that he can be on the plane. So they have an inside person on the plane with the drugs to make sure that they end up where they need to end up. And now they're here.
Okay, here's the biggest issue that I have with my own theory, and this honestly is probably the biggest issue.
How are you going to pull me in and then take me out?
Okay, here's the problem here. This is the same issue you have with every person. So it's not just Kevin. It's that when we saw what happened to Lisa out there, and the killer's right here, and then there's this lightning, and the killer's like over here. It's just like, how do you have plus 100 stealth? And it's in the rain, you're in the midst of lightning, you don't know when the lightning is gonna strike. It's like, Kevin's a little bit of an older gentleman. I don't know how he is this agile, but at the same time, is anyone that agile? That almost felt supernatural to me, the way in which that was cut. And that kind of made me wonder, it's like, okay, are we seeing this scene just through Lisa's point of view? Because it almost is too unbelievable otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? You're in the dark, there's flashing lights. Like, it might just be from Lisa's point of view where she's like, you blink and somebody's gone, sort of thing. Because there still is the possibility, and man, if this show does this, I'm going to be super disappointed.
Yeah.
That there is another person out in the jungle killing everybody off. That is not the answer that I want to all of this, where it's like, surprise, you were never going to guess.
The two outcomes that are the most disappointing here would be number one, that. Number two, that it's Dan, just because it's already been so established that Dan is already brutal as he is. If they're able to set something up where, I don't know, where Amy is actually capable of all this despite what she's going on, I'll have a hard time believing it. But they could sell me, I think, on that if they're clever enough. It's just like, those are the two worst case scenarios that are like in my brain.
If it's Amy, I think that they might be able to sell it if it's like the father's business or the family business is this, and that she kind of knows what's going on, but not 100% knows what's going on, and was put on this plane as sort of the inside person that's like, okay, you need to sort of get this plane from point A to point B. And if for whatever reason something happens, you need to protect the plane above all else.
Okay, so in addition to all of this stuff that's happening in the jungle, we spend a little bit of time in this episode with Cora, the quote-unquote flight manager, who's getting interviewed and then trying to duck it a little bit later on. This is just the big question I have with all of this, is that does it really matter that much? It matters, I guess, for the context of the eventual rescue of some of these people in the jungle and how they get out of all of this. But at the same time, I was sort of thinking, it's like, okay, I assume that there were some probably shady people involved in all of this behind the scenes.
Yeah, I think that, learning that Cora is one of the shady people on it, I think was good to know. I just didn't know if she was one of the shady people or if she was somebody who was maybe had a loved one in there. It was interesting to see that that's where she did land on it. And then, of course, we saw Zach's wife in here being like, okay, so his cover is blown. He's no longer, hidden insurance guy. You've told Mexican authorities that he's DEA.
Yeah.
Everybody knows now, so that ain't great. So I would really like to take a leave because now she's learned that there is a transmitter that has sent out a signal, but because it's so like MacGyvered together,
Yeah.
it's just this huge area and that it's going to take time to actually get there to get to them. My biggest question is when they got back up there and they saw that it had pulled apart and they're like, okay, did it pull apart naturally because it's MacGyver together with gum?
Yeah.
Or did it get pulled apart? At that point, if I was anybody but the killer, I'd be like, I'm sleeping beside this now.
Yes.
We should all just be sleeping beside it. Move the camp.
Yeah, there is no more important thing at this point than trying to be rescued. I understand that you think that there's a killer around you and you probably don't want to trust anyone at this point, but you got to do something to just increase your odds because that's really what this is all about at this point. Like, station yourself at somewhere where you might be a little bit more visible.
Nice and high.
Yeah, so that somebody can see you and they're flying over. Maybe they'll see the signal and that you can buy yourself a little bit more time. I understand it's all risky because if you're all bundled together, that makes it easier on the killer, but you're going to have to take a risk at some point here.
Yeah, I mean, there's also safety in numbers, right? If you're all in a place where there's no jungle for people to hide and come get you, you're right on. We've seen what it looks like. It's like a flat top, no trees, nothing around you. Yeah, you're probably going to boil up there, but you know, you can always come down during the day and have shifts of people that are up there and stay up there at night. It's more unlikely you're going to get killed all the way up there unless somebody's in the group. Take shifts being awake.
Yeah, I don't think that's that unreasonable a thing to do at this point, given the stakes that are around you.
At least you're not wandering off into the jungle anymore and just getting killed. Like Lisa getting killed with her own gun. I kind of had like an eye roll moment with this. I'm not gonna lie about that. Her death was just like, okay.
It's I know it's tricky because a show like this, you want everybody to die in your own creative ways, but this was probably the one death so far this season was just like, all right. Like, come on, guys.
With her character and what they've set up with her and who she is and what she stands for, that's like, oh, and now we've killed her with her gun. Ha ha ha. I was just kind of like, okay.
Yeah. Now, if we're
It could have been more creative than that.
Here's what I'm thinking is the good news. I think this next death is going to be really, really creative. And I think this next death is going to be fun because my prediction is that Dan is going to be the next victim just because he's so obviously not the killer because he's such a loose cannon / crazy person that I just think he's going to do something, fly really hard off the handle. And then the killer is going to just do something that's really gruesome, but also incredibly entertaining. It's just shocking to me. We are 2/3 of the way through this. We've lost both Travis, which, you know, kudos to Commoner Bratz Pitts, who pointed out that this is the same actor who plays Mr. Drummond on Severance. I had no idea until that was mentioned. I would have just
Bratz Pitts.
I would have just lived my entire life, and I was like, man, this actor's really good.
Yeah, he is. I had no idea. Thank you so much for pointing that out.
Yeah, but like, I'm shocked that we've lost Travis and Lisa, and yet both Amy and Dan are actually both still there. Like, one of them has got to go.
I was really glad to finally get that backstory on Dan and have like this very honest talk with everyone where he's like, yeah, this is what I was doing. I was pretending to be a lawyer. Yep. I went to prison for that. Yep. Didn't feel great about it. And yeah, I started out this relationship with Amy with not the best intentions, but now I'm here and I'm completely in love with her. And while we have seen her him grab her and things that I hate, he really does seem to be like not just using her for her money.
There's something there with him. I think the problem with Dan is just he's just too broken a person and he doesn't know how to be a normal person, how to get help, and he's certainly not in a situation where that's going to change out there. I just think that he is marked. I think the only way that Dan goes in a satisfying manner at this point is if Dan actually does sacrifice himself in order to save Amy, which I do think would be compelling, and it would at least show me something different for him on his inevitable way out the door.
Somebody needs to end up in the Barracuda Pond. Somebody needs to get into that pond. They have shown it so many times. There's a reason that they showed it, besides the fact that we can get water and boil it from the Barracuda pond. Come on.
Okay, I buy that a lot more than I buy everyone saying that the monkeys did it on the White Lotus. Like, that at least feels like that's something that could conceivably happen. So, Barracuda Pond, everybody.
That's right. How I'm rooting for the Barracudas.
The show is so messed up where we're now
I love
rooting for
it.
certain ways for people to go. But
No, I think Dan is going to go probably next.
yeah, I think Dan's probably going to go next. I would not be surprised if we're sort of left off in the finale where, you know, maybe Amy's still there. But I think at the end of the day, to me, the big three in the wilderness are Kevin, Sonia, and Zach. I think they are all the people we have the most questions about. We'll see where things go. But what did you guys think about 9 Bodies in a Mexican Morgue, episode 4, The Latest Death? Your current theories, you know, do you agree with Jess that Zach is going to be the last man standing at this point? Let us know in the comments. Hit that subscribe button. You can support us further by joining our Patreon. That link is in the description. We're covering exclusively there. The Pit coming up, Bosch Legacy, Andor. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you here next time.